2,044 teams have reached the halfway point of their season with a 500 or below winning percentage and advanced to the playoffs, including at least one in each season. Of those 44 clubs, 7 have advanced to the conference championship game, including both the Green Bay Packers and Pittsburgh Steelers last season. And even the 2001 New England Patriots reached the midway point at 4-4 and will go on to win the Super Bowl. We'll do a quick second half preview to determine if we think there are any such teams to watch this season, and we'll take a look at every Week 9 matchup as OFN NFL Preview with Tony Mejia on Prime Sports Network starts now. All right, it's Thursday, the 2nd of November 2017. I'm your host, Greg DePalma, as we get ready to preview Week 9. So the unofficial, I guess you can call it official, midway point. Not every team has got the same record, but we are past Week 8, so it is time to take a look at first half, second half. We'll do a little of that, and of course, as we mentioned, go into our usual matchups, latest trends, injury reports, odds, everything else to get you ready for the game. As I welcome in Tony Mejia to the program, and Tony is an independent sports columnist and exclusive handicapper at VegasInsider.com. So, wow, Tony, I guess anybody listening to this show by now has heard the news about Deshaun Watson, and that's just that's pretty bad. That's tough to hear.
Yeah, I mean, because it continues a trend that we've seen all year, and it's almost the survival of the fittest who's going to be left standing. And in November, they've already lost J.J. Watt, Whitney Merciless. They transitioned from a defensive team into one that's winning shootouts and losing shootouts last week. But, you know, a factor, and now not a factor.
I know that when we had talked on this network with Dan Shanka about Deshaun Watson, and I'm sure I'll talk to him about that next time we have a conversation. He knew how much I loved Deshaun Watson and thought that he was going to be a great player. He's turned out to be a great player. But one of the things that Dan was a little bit hesitant on was the fact that, you know, anytime you get a player that does rely on his legs a little bit and his athleticism like Deshaun, and he's not the biggest guy, you do have to worry about the NFL and the pounding. But it happened in practice today, so you never know. But that was a little bit part of what you got to worry about sometimes when you do grade quarterbacks that aren't big, and they want to throw their body around. So, and we see that with Marcus Mariota too. I mean, I was scared to death as a Jet fan about everybody was talking about trading up and getting Marcus Mariota as a Jet, that year with the Jets. And I was like, no way do I want to trade up, mortgage my future for a guy that I don't think could stay healthy.
Well, beyond Mariota, you've had Jameis Winston with a shoulder injury, so it's not even limited to running quarterbacks. It's a matter of bad luck, really awful luck this year. I mean, the word is that it was a non-contact injury, so you don't even know what the circumstances are, and sometimes those are the worst ones.
True.
So I mean, hopefully he comes back and 8 months and continue showing flashes of what we've seen. But it's a devastating injury. I mean, I can't even think of how you move on. They've got an Indianapolis team that they would have ordinarily been really comfortable against, trying to bounce back from a tough loss to Seattle. Now all that's out the window, and at this point you're trying to salvage your season. So pick up the pieces and try to move on. There's the other guys on the team.
And you already have, of course, the situation with Watt. So, I mean, I guess the only thing you could do is look forward as a Houston fan and say, well, we just got to get these guys back and healthy. And if we can get Deshaun Watson and J.J. Watt healthy next year, then just imagine how good we can be. But that's still no guarantee. Okay. Game tonight, as we always start off with the Thursday night game, and we'll definitely, as we go through these games, we'll also interject about first half, second half, that kind of outlook, things of that nature based on what we thought beginning of the season, what we think the rest of the season. So let's start off with Buffalo and the Jets, and Buffalo's been a surprise team at 5-2. They can actually go to 6-2 at their midway point. First of all, as far as this game, they're a 3-point favorite, Tony, but this is a game where they're a road favorite. And I did a little research, and they've only been a road favorite 6 times since 2014, and they've only won and covered once. And this is a rivalry game that they have obviously, I mean, that they've actually been pretty good at in the last few years. They've won 6 out of 8 against the Jets. They beat the Jets by 9 in Week 1. The defense pretty much dominated. LaShawn McCoy had a big game. Buffalo makes a couple of big trades this week. Benjamin in, Darius out. The Jets, meanwhile, have now lost 3 straight. They're still staying competitive, and they're 4-0. That competitiveness shows in their ATS home record of 4-0. So even when they don't win, they're losing close games. And I'm going to have a Jet show a little bit later on, and one of the things I'm going to, of course, talk about is what I'm hearing in New York from all three of the analysts on SNY in New York. All thought it was absolutely crazy for anybody to think that Josh McCown should be benched at any point this season. And I don't know what people are thinking, Tony. I just don't. I mean, who cares? Josh McCown could throw for 800 yards. If the Jets are 3-6 or 3-7, he has to be benched. Are you insane? What are you going to do? Give him a 5-year contract, you idiots?
Yeah, I mean, you got to take a look at Petty. You can do it whenever you want, as far as I'm concerned. I mean, they're gonna win at least one more time, and they have been competitive. The 2 home losses have been to the Patriots and Falcons. So clearly they're doing something right. I'm sure you saw the shots that were taken with how the offense ran
that's
last
nice.
week
Yeah,
with the run game.
That's
so
great.
I think at least they want to be competitive, and they're acting like all other normal football teams that aren't completely tanky. And they should be in this game tonight, but it's a golden opportunity for Buffalo to finish off a solid start, and their second half schedule is very manageable. I think they do get the Patriots a couple of times, but you have to win one of those games, and you might make the playoffs. And that happens this century. So they have to like where they're at right now. I love the move to go pick up another red zone target. All of a sudden, Taylor goes from not having receivers to throw to having Matthews, Benjamin, and Boy scoring touchdowns now. Two games in a row, they've eclipsed their highest scoring mark of the season. So that's something to know. If you're gonna go with that over tonight, weather's clear, and it's funny because I do the same thing with recent meetings and how often odds makers have relied on 42 and a half as the total. It's almost like they recycled it regardless of circumstances. And we'll see what happens. The Bills ran for 190 yards to the Jets, something like 30, 40 in that season opening win. So both teams are going to want to establish the run. It should be a fun one.
I mean, look, I think the Bills are. I think because of the fact that you have the situation with Watson, of course, so you can forget about Houston for the postseason. You don't have to worry about Indianapolis with luck. So basically, you're going, okay, all I got to do is beat out either Tennessee or Jacksonville. You've got Denver. I mean, come on. I mean, now they're going to Brock Osweiler. It shows you how desperate they are. You got the Chargers that you can never count on. And you got Oakland not playing as well as people thought. So if there's a time for the Bills to finally get back to the postseason based on the start that they've had, this is it. This is their chance. And look, the Dolphins made the postseason last year. There's usually in one of the conferences one team that makes the postseason where you go, well, how did they do that? They're not really that good, are they? But sometimes that's how it works out. And, the Bills are probably going to be that team this year, and I would bet that they would be. I don't think what we're seeing is necessarily, sure, the offense might be smoke and mirrors at times, but they do have a pretty good offensive line. They can run the football. They're turnover machine on defense, which is going to help you win games. And all that combined with what I just said about these teams underachieving around them. And, I kind of think they are going to make the playoffs. I don't know about you.
I had no idea until writing my column this morning that last time we saw the Bills was Music City Miracle. I didn't think it went that far back.
Yeah.
But 1999. So sure, I mean, look, they've got to embrace these opportunities, and tonight's a winnable football game.
Yeah,
So
can't
we'll
lose this
see.
one. Yes, you cannot lose this one. Well, they do get the Saints next week at home, but the Saints are playing great football, but they are at home. But yeah, I think
would take so much pressure off them to get this one.
Yes, it would. Yes, and I like them tonight. I mean, I think that I think the Jets are starting to develop, especially with Matt. I don't care what you say about how good McCown has looked at times. McCown's a losing quarterback, and to me, losing quarterbacks are losing quarterbacks, and I think that's what's happening with the Jets. They're losers right now. They're in this loser, even though they've been better than people have expected them to, but they've lost 3 straight, and I don't think they're going to get out of this now. See, I thought this is what was going to happen to them early on in the season, and then they caught fire. But this is kind of what I felt. I felt that okay, I can't see them win with McCown. I just can't, and I think that's what's catching up to them right now. So we'll see, but I think it's a good opportunity for the Jets to embarrass their entire organization on national TV when fans who haven't seen them yet go, why is that guy that's a quarterback of the team look like grandpa? All right, so let's move on to the Sunday games. And the top game, speaking of a player that won't be around, Zeke. It looks like finally Zeke will not be around. Even though we always, we bring this up an awful lot, and he winds up playing for another few weeks. But this looks like
absolutely. There's an emergency injunction tomorrow.
Yeah, right.
So I have no idea.
I don't know what we do here, but I would think that. I mean, I think I looked at the odds recently, and it was I think it was like 1 point either way. So, and that's with potentially Zeke not playing. So that kind of surprised me. I mean, shouldn't the Chiefs be at least a 3-point road favorite with no Zeke as of right now?
Yeah, with no Zeke, I would agree. I've actually got with Zeke, Dallas is a 3-point favorite.
Okay.
You put their he does matter that
yes,
much.
He does.
And then they're relatively healthy. Depending on Cole Beasley getting out of a concussion protocol. Otherwise, so yeah, if they have them, great. If they don't, at least the other running backs are fresh. It shows you that people are still dubious about Kansas City, regardless of their start. It's going to be a season-long battle for them, and it has been. With the Alex Smith factor, despite his breakout season, I think everybody is waiting for him to fail eventually.
And if they do stay a dog, I think they were a 1-point dog before he came on the air. So if they do stay a dog, the only time they've been a dog this year was opening day or week 1 when they beat up on New England. So Cowboys, as we said last week, and it's still the case, they have not beaten a team that currently right now occupies above 500 record. So, but I like the Chiefs in this one because Zeke's probably not going to play. And I just look, Chiefs are a better football team. Still not. The Cowboys were pretty fortunate to win last week. I mean, the Redskins were decimated with injuries, and they still needed a block field goal to turn the tide of that game. The Cowboys. So I like the Chiefs in this one. I love the fact that I'm at almost the level where all I got to do is pick them to win, and I get the game. So that's too good for me to pass up. In that one, even though it's a road game. What about the team? What about the moving forward? Any chance for the Cowboys to go to the postseason in your mind if Zeke is suspended?
Yeah, I still think they can work without him. He hasn't been that great this season, so you hope that McFadden or Morris can serviceable, and the offensive line plays better than they've shown so far. Kansas City's defense isn't Kansas City's defense that we've come to know. More injuries this week with D Ford. So, you can throw on them. To me, it's a wide open game, and it's one that's going to be telling. So I wasn't surprised when I saw it top your Sunday list.
All right. Yeah, it is. There are not a lot of big games this week. All right. Let's go to Atlanta and Carolina in the NFC South. And this is a big game in this division. And we don't really know yet whether or not where Atlanta is right now. All right, they got to win, and sometimes you just got to get a win any way, shape possible in order to get the monkey off your back. And they did. It was a very ugly win, but it was a win, and that's what they need to do. Any win in the NFL is a win. So now is that the start for them to kind of get a little confidence going into Carolina? Because even though Carolina got a nice win against Tampa Bay, divisional win, that was also a pretty ugly game. and they just benefited of the fact that Tampa Bay is just even worse. And then we talked about Kuechly last week, which was the key denominating factor for me. And then they shut down Tampa Bay. That's such a big difference Kuechly is when he's on the field for that team. But this is a tough one. I mean, Atlanta's I think about a 1 point favorite here. It's close to a pick 'em. Falcons have dropped 4 straight covers, so they can't convince anybody at this point that they deserve for you to take them. But this is almost like a pick 'em, and they've beaten Carolina 3 straight times, including both games last year by an 81-49 margin. The Panthers have only won once in 3 games at home, and they haven't covered any home games this year yet. Tony.
Yeah, this is one to get them back on their side, confidence wise. I mean, I think you see, going into a fourth quarter trailing the Jets isn't going to do any wonders for the team believing in their offensive coordinator. I think it's been bad. It could continue to be bad, but Devontae Freeman's going to play through his shoulder thing if he stays healthy. They've got a legitimate shot in this one. It's a confidence boost for both, especially as a divisional game.
Yeah.
The Panthers want to get it at home, and Atlanta wants to build because that aura of invincibility is gone. The Super Bowl guarantee is gone, and then all of a sudden you're haunted by teams that make the Super Bowl and lose it don't make the play.
It's a tough one, isn't it? This is a tough one to call because you just don't know. You're just guessing. You're guessing whether Atlanta, because all right, let's say Atlanta does win, then you're like, okay, well, maybe they're going to get going now. But we don't know. They could lose this game and it's back to where it was last week where, they're
Carolina
dead.
-1.5.
Okay. Carolina -1.5. Well, there you go. So
exactly. And it's basically a toss-up. So,
So, it's a tough one.
To see which quarterback rescues the result.
All right. Next up, Denver. And speaking of quarterbacks, Denver and Philadelphia. Brock Osweiler takes over for Denver. So I think the Denver Broncos will be looking for a quarterback in the draft next year. So a lot of teams will be looking for a quarterback in the draft. But because I don't know. But I mean, Paxton Lynch, we know what they got to do. They got to get Paxton Lynch healthy fast. And they just got to play him. They got to see what they got. Now, I don't think they have anything there. I think, he hasn't looked good at all, but they have to see what they have in him and then go into the draft and pick a quarterback if they must. Who knows? McCarron is now still available after what the Browns screwed up. But anyway, the Broncos haven't won a game on the road this year. They haven't covered a game on the road this year. Matter of fact, keep this in mind. They've lost 3 straight games overall by a 73-29 margin. And don't forget, one of those games was when they got beat up at home by the Giants. So they are not playing good football, to say the least. And they're taking on the hottest team in the NFL, who didn't have any problem beating a team that they were heavily favored against, the Niners. They disposed of the Niners easily, like a good team is supposed to. This spread is 7.5 points. To me, I'm scared of that game because it seems too easy.
I put it at 7. But I mean, you wouldn't have thought that a month and a half ago.
No.
You might even say Denver is a 1-point road favorite. But then obviously Simeon went into the tank, and he's been the chief reason why they struggle. But there's offensive line issues, there's receiver issues, and I mean Philly's legitimately been a dependable, great team, but they're also running into teams at precisely the right time, which is always a great factor. I mean, we'll see how J.J. factors in now.
What do you think about that move, considering when you're a hot team, everything's going well, you're not having a problem running the football. So what do you think about that chemistry, screwing around with the chemistry like that?
It is. It's exactly that, but it could intensify things for, guys that really are competitive. Garrett Blunt's not going to roll over for anybody. He's got rings, and maybe they get a tremendous play out of every. And I do want, backs that you can rely on to close out games. You're going to be up in them. You can really take over fourth quarters and take the pressure off of Carson Wentz. I like the move, but I was puzzled by it as you are.
All right, so I'm all over the Eagles in that game. I'm sorry, but you know what, Brock Osweiler, we'll see whether or not he gets another chance to become a starting quarterback in the NFL we'll see if he could take advantage of it. By the way, Denver hosting the New England Patriots next week on Sunday Night Football. So Brock Osweiler should have some fun. All right. Next up, and by the way, I do believe in the Eagles long term. They were one of my sleeper teams in the beginning of the season, and we thought this division could go any way, in the beginning of the season.
Sure.
Um, but still, I don't think we thought that the Eagles would be, or any team would be this much in control. But that's the NFL for you. But I don't think that this is smoke and mirrors. Right now, it's looking like maybe, I don't know. I mean, I know we're only at the midway point, but I'm starting to feel like very confident about a Philly Seattle championship game. The way Russell Wilson's playing, and now they get Dwayne Brown there. Uh, I'm sorry, it's just a combination of the way that the Eagles are playing, that Russell Wilson's bailing his team out like a superstar should. They get the offensive lineman back, and also no Aaron Rodgers, and some of these other teams like the Falcons and Panthers underachieving.
I'm very, very pleased I did not come off my Super Bowl pick. I stuck by it when the Seahawks looked like they were not going to solve those O-line issues. And, that's why you never know. You keep your head above water long enough, and then, although, I mean, this has been such a weird trade deadline. All of a sudden, you woke up and everybody wanted to follow the NBA stuff. I mean, let's become shoppers. We never see this type of action.
Yeah, it was fun. It really was. Maybe it's the changing of times because of the contracts and so forth. So we certainly hope so. It makes it fun for us fans. Okay, next up, speaking of Seattle, let's talk about is that the next game? Yeah, right? Yeah, Washington
Yep.
and Seattle. And boy, Washington, as we just said, man, they are just too banged up right now. I mean, there's too many injuries. Their confidence is dead, and they're playing a team that just, after the way Russell Wilson played last week, and now you get Dwayne Brown in there, they're just playing. And I've had Paul Richardson on my fantasy team, and it's like I'm waiting for him to. I've said this on the fantasy show a few times. When is Russell Wilson going to start throwing the ball more to Paul Richardson? I mean, it's nice that he gets a touchdown, it seems like, every game, but he gets like 2 targets, 3 targets. I know how good he is, and we saw that last week. So maybe that's the first step of Paul Richardson becoming a major focal point with that offense, because that just shows you how dynamic he can be with Baldwin and with Graham. Now maybe they could run the ball a little bit more with Brown. But wow, 7 points, Seattle favored at home. I'm sorry, but this one also seems a little bit too easy for me. I'm not going to say that the Redskins aren't going to hang in there and give him a game and fight till maybe the end of the third quarter, beginning of the fourth quarter. But at some point, Seattle should be able to run away late and make this a 2-touchdown, at least a 2-touchdown spread.
I mean, we've seen the Redskins' offensive line issues get, play into Cousins' mannerisms out there, and he isn't the confident leader that he was, and that really was key to that team. Seattle won't have Earl Thomas, it doesn't look like, so that could be a factor because they fell apart without him.
That's true.
And so we'll see. They do get Cam Chancellor and Bobby Wagner cleared, so they'll have other defensive leaders out there, but we'll see. And I think they deserve with their home field dominance the full 7. I had it at 7.5.
Yeah, that one is, I feel real comfortable taking Seattle there. By the way, they're on Thursday Night Football, Seattle is, at Arizona a week from today. Okay, next up, Oakland and Miami. As far as, somebody needs to explain to me how Miami in a month can be on primetime national TV 3 times. I mean, who thought that the Dolphins were going to be that good in the beginning of the season? I mean, Dan Marino's not playing for them. I don't get it. I mean, they're playing Oakland on Sunday night this week. They had Baltimore on Thursday night last week, and next week they're at Carolina on Monday Night Football. Excuse me, 3 straight weeks, not three out of 4, 3 straight weeks on prime time. Pick a game: Thursday, Sunday, Monday. Can't get enough of the Dolphins, somebody. Well, I can. I'm actually a little bit surprised they're a 3-point home dog. I know that they're coming off a 40-0 whitewash. But look at Oakland, man. I mean, we thought that after the Kansas City game. Come on. I mean, if you're going to use that as the springboard game, there you go. And they didn't. They failed the test. If that's not going to do it, I don't know what will.
Well, the 40-0, which should have probably gotten this to 3.5, 4, didn't factor in because when Westgate put out their early lines like they do Tuesday before games even played, so they had their week 9 lines for last week's game before Thursday night. Oakland was a 2.5-point favorite.
Yeah, did you think though that they probably thought Oakland was going to be Buffalo? I mean, they were.
I guess, and yeah, maybe. You know,
maybe not. They were a dog in the game against Buffalo.
Who knows with that team? That's true. That is true. So, maybe they know something.
Well, yeah, I mean, yeah. Well, you tell me. In the industry, when you get a game where you go, yeah, I'm not really sure I understand what they're doing here. Do you just stay away from those games saying to yourself, they must know something that I don't and I just can't figure it out?
No, you really can't, because then you're playing mind games with yourself as to what you are convinced of. I mean, I just think they know what numbers to get play on both sides are, and that's really all they're concerned about.
All right. Well, Miami's won 5 straight against Oakland since 2008, and the Raiders are 1-5 straight up and against the spread in their last 6 games, and they're a road favorite by 3 against the Miami team that, by the way, is actually 4-3, and the Raiders are 3-5. So I don't know what to say. I mean, you would think the Raiders, because the Raiders should be a better team, but I can't take the Raiders the way they played last week. I can't touch them.
Well, this is a true elimination game because I would have already given up on Miami for their record. But I mean, who thinks Jay Cutler is going to get this team to rally around him?
No one.
Just lose die. and guys on that team are going to be like, well, why did you trade our the key to our team last year? And the fact that he's been injured this year has been crippling.
Yeah.
Maybe they were trying to move forward. Do get Devontae Parker back. Maybe we'll see Cutler finally cut loose. Certainly it's a defense that you can pick on. But I think the Raiders are rightfully favored on the road.
And by the way, me saying that I can't take the Raiders doesn't mean I'm taking the Dolphins. It just means I just can't take the Raiders. They do get Lynch after an off week for him and a suspension, so maybe he can kind of spark the team, even though he's been pretty below average so far this season himself. All right, next up, Detroit and Green Bay on Monday Night Football, and the Lions are a 2.5-point favorite against the Packers on the road. The Lions have lost 3 straight, and I don't know what's better. In the long run, if you're a Lions fan, I think it's a win-loss situation. You want to win, great, obviously, but if something doesn't happen, they don't make the postseason, they need to find a new coach. They need to get real. I think they have a good GM there, but they don't have the right coach. I thought it was funny when they showed that stat on the Pittsburgh game, the coaches that had like the best comeback records in the fourth quarter or something like that, and they showed Jim Caldwell. And it's like, yeah, I'm sure that has nothing to do with the fact that he's coached Matthew Stafford and Peyton Manning. I'm sure it has nothing to do with that.
He's got good coordinators, though. And so maybe you get rid of him and vote one of those guys. Terrell has been deserving a job.
Yeah,
and I think it's his defense that is the reason why I buy them as a road favorite.
I agree.
We really haven't seen Brett Hundley, prove that he's a QB at this level.
No.
And they can bring it, and we'll see. He'll need to use those legs this week.
Yeah, Detroit. You can't take Green Bay right now with Hundley. I mean, he didn't play well against Minnesota, and we said, well, we'll give him a break. It's Minnesota, and then he didn't do anything the next week against the Saints. So I think he is who he is. I don't think that's going to change. So you would think Matthew Stafford against Hundley with their defense better than Green Bay's. Yeah, they haven't beaten Green Bay 3 straight too. There's opportunity to get a little revenge on their rival. On the national TV audience, and another game that's important as far as the playoffs because they're 3-4 and the Packers are 4-3. So, by the way, Detroit's home against Cleveland next week, so they can go from 3-4 to 5-4 in 2 weeks. So, and by the way, Mike McCarthy, that's another guy that probably should have been fired 2 years ago. This is another guy that every time Aaron Rodgers gets lost, I don't know if you noticed, but they can't win a game.
Can't win. Not a coincidence.
No. All right, Baltimore and Tennessee. Now, this is all of a sudden an interesting game because of what Baltimore did last week against Miami, and because there's a possibility I see that Max Williams has actually been participating in practice. He's their most talented tight end. Wallace looks like he might be ready to go. Macklin's going to play. So lo and behold, but they're actually getting healthy on offense. And then you look at Tennessee, Casey's banged up. They do get Corey Davis back, so that'll help. Because he's going to be a really good player, and look at Tennessee. They're 4-1 with Mariota. They're a 3.5-point favorite at home in this one. But this makes it. I mean, look, before the game last week, this would have been an easy one. But now you do wonder whether or not Baltimore can actually get something going.
And I think the key for Tennessee is getting that passing game going in the second half. And if they do get Decker more involved, because Corey Davis is commanding, attention from DBs, then all of a sudden things are going to get easier. Obviously, huge key to get Delaney Walker healthy, and he's legitimately questionable, and has been injured. We'll see if the time off has helped him get up to speed, because they need him as well. Jonathan Cyprian, he's been a key loss for that secondary. Jekyll and Hyde, and really has been better with him available. All of a sudden now questionable, so they could get him back. So yeah, it's a case of two teams, almost like an elimination game in this one for me. And I've been a far bigger believer in Tennessee than Baltimore. You probably are the other way on that going into the season. But yeah, so big one for.
Yeah. This is one of those games for me as a Baltimore sleeper guy that if they are going to make that turn, that they win this game in any way, shape, or form, and then I'll be a believer that with everybody maybe getting healthy again, that they could be one of those teams we talked about in the very beginning of the program that at this point 500 or less to make the postseason. Okay, next up, let's go with Tampa Bay and New Orleans, and the Dirk Cutter watch has got to be on the table. They just are not playing well at all. I don't even know why Winston's playing at this point. If they're saying, he's got to deal with it, there's nothing you can do. Well, yeah, there is. You shut him down, go have surgery, and end the season. That's what you do. He's your franchise quarterback. Stop screwing around. Look at Andrew Luck. Are you crazy? So that's what I would do. Maybe they're going to have one more loss. And if they have the one more loss, maybe they should put Jameis Winston under the knife, fire Dirk Cutter, and start the process as soon as possible, because I can't see them beating the Saints right now, because you get a situation where the Bucs are just in an awful spell going against a team like the Saints right now that are red hot confidence-wise. They've won 5 straight games. This is an easy one for me to call. Any reason for you to think that the Bucs are going to turn things around this week?
This week's optimism, with air quotes that I'm using, is that Jameis threw before Friday for the first time in a few weeks. So even though he's limited, they're optimistic. No Brett Grimes in this one, potentially, and he has made an obvious difference. Otherwise, they're kind of lost back there too. Some reasons for concern. New Orleans' momentum with Armstead and Pete continuing to struggle with injuries, and Wofford's on the list too. But yeah, I mean, you have to like the team's momentum, and you have to like what the defense is offering, and the fact that the running game has allowed Drew Brees to put the ball out there less.
That's right.
It's a better blend for the Saints.
Yeah, they're running the ball and they're playing some defense. That's why they're for real right now in that division, and they've been the best team in that division at this point. So unless Atlanta and Carolina wake up, New Orleans could actually win this thing. And again, next week they go to Buffalo, which will be a tough game for them, considering they're a dome team and how tough the Bills have played this season with their defense, and of course at home. Cincinnati and Jacksonville. And Jacksonville, no, this is still a game that matters, not necessarily for Jacksonville, but for Cincinnati. They got very fortunate last week against the Colts, winning that game on that late turnover. They're still hanging around, winning 3 out of the last 4. The Jags finally get themselves that road favorite win. So as we talked about, it's the Colts, man. The Colts were the last team that they beat as a road favorite. and that was whatever we said 5-6 years ago. And so the Colts are now the new last team that they beat as a road favorite, winning 27-0. They come off the bye, but now the point spread goes higher at 5.5 against the Bengals. So I would be just a tiny bit concerned with that. But come on, I mean, the way that Jags defense is playing, I think the Bengals showed their true colors against Pittsburgh. I think they were lucky last week against a bad Colt team. So I think the Jags are the way to go here.
Yeah, I mean, still don't know if D.D. Westbrook is going to make his return from IR, and I think he'd make a big difference. And Fournette will be out there. It's a bigger spread than I thought. I mean, I topped it out at 3, and legitimately wrote down 1.5. So I mean, Jack's getting some respect. That defense is obviously for real. And you know, we'll see if. But yeah, Cincinnati's been much better of late. So this is a game where probably one season will realistically end. But I think the Bengals have a shot. That's a lot of points.
Okay. Yeah. I'm only worried about the points because of history with Jacksonville giving that many points, but especially with Blake Bortles at quarterback. But I mean, there's just think Jacksonville's a better team, and I would go with the Jags. By the way, remember we were talking about the whole thing of quarterback with McCarron and Dalton. So they actually tried to trade. See, isn't this the Bengals? They just love Andy Dalton and Marvin Lewis so much, don't they? They believe in Andy Dalton so much that they're just going to trade AJ McCarron. Okay, goodbye AJ. We're not even going to give you a chance to start here because we love Andy Dalton so much. And Marvin Lewis, man, he's going to coach here till he dies.
Could be.
It's embarrassing.
Do you buy the theory that it was a him or me situation in Cleveland and Hugh Jackson didn't get his man because he's going to play scapegoat and not Brown?
I believe anything in Cleveland. That's for sure. I mean, that is a mess. You know, I kind of thought they were headed in the right direction. And to tell you the truth, I think personnel-wise, I think they have been. And I think they made the right move with some of their coaches. I mean, I apparently Hugh Jackson is not that great of a head coach, but you know he can coach. They just don't have a quarterback. I mean, this team could be a 4-4 personnel team if they had a quarterback, but the quarterback is so bad there at that position they can't win a game. So, and that's where things get really messed up. So, all right, Rams and Giants. Rams are a 3.5 point favorite on the road here against a pretty bad Giant team. So I don't know how you don't take the Rams. They've earned so much respect, and they've earned my trust at this point. They beat Jacksonville a couple weeks ago in an Eastern time zone game. So they've only lost one game in their last 5. That was that game where they didn't play well against Seattle. But hey, Seattle has been playing pretty good football, so you can forgive them for that loss. But the Giants, I mean, they got one win. So I mean, and they don't play good at home. I mean, they haven't won a game at home. They've been outscored 75-39. Jenkins is suspended now. Yeah, I mean, why wouldn't I take the Rams?
Yeah, there's no question. And the Jenkins suspension is brutal, just piling on. You know, it's obvious McAdoo's lost that team. He needs to lose his job. And I had the Rams as a 2-point favorite, mercifully. 3.5 sounds better. And yeah, that might be the lock of the week.
Okay. Indianapolis and Houston. So yeah, we have no idea what's going to happen here now with Deshaun Watson. They were 13, which even to me would have been definitely Houston. But now without Watson, you got to just think that they're going to have that they have to psychologically be damaged here. And will that hurt their chances in this particular game? I mean, if the Colts haven't given up on the season kind of week where they come out playing hard and don't feel bad for themselves the way they lost the game last week, then this could actually be a pretty close game. I think Houston may be in trouble in this one. It's tough to recover from those major injuries, especially after what happened with Watt.
It's true, but Tim simply has gotten most out of whoever lines up under center. He's gotten a team that has already lost Watt consecutive seasons to somehow believe. So if there's anybody that can, on very short notice, pick up a win, it won't be 13 points, that's for sure. But I think he can do it. So, you know, especially at home, you've got a fan base that comes off a World Series and have parades this weekend. You know, they could ride that wave and survive. survive Indy, but it's going to be tough to win enough to make the playoffs. So, it's tough break.
Yeah, I think that those playoff dreams are over. Arizona and San Francisco is the last game. And as far as that one is concerned, 2 point spread for Arizona. But hey, you know what? I'm taking the Niners in this one. It's time for them to win a game. They're going to get Garoppolo in there at some point. Yeah, we don't know when. We talked about that with Dan Shanka about Garoppolo on a scouting interview a few hours ago. That'll be available on demand at ourlads.com. And so, and what we talked about is Shanahan saying that I don't know when we're going to play him. Maybe we don't play him. So I don't believe any of that. But that's this game. We know he's not going to play.
Why not?
Why that he won't play?
Yeah.
You didn't explain it. Just that we're not going to rush him. And who knows if it's more? He just didn't explain it. He just said, "Well, not so sure at this point when or if he's going to play this season." So.
No, I know that. My point is I buy that they're going to continue tanking. Because why would you put Garoppolo out there so he could win you a game and that costs you Saquon Barkley or a bargaining chip down the road? So I legitimately buy that they're conflicted. And then if it's a decision that's going to be made, it's going to be made by the front office because Garoppolo obviously wants to play, and you guys are going to lose respect for him if he says, "Oh, okay, I'll sit and just learn," when other guys are just thrown into the fire. But it would come from up top, and I'm the type of I'm pro tanking, so I will see. I'm not convinced that there isn't smoke there for a reason.
Yeah, and but the other thing too is that there has to be. I mean, Garoppolo apparently, of course he had to okay this deal. So why would he okay the deal if he thought he wasn't going to play? You know what I'm saying? I mean, how does that help his value in getting a contract? I don't know. It's a weird situation. I mean, I don't. And look, I wouldn't play him either right away just because of the fact that we don't know if Staley's going to play. I wouldn't throw him out there with an offensive line that couldn't protect him. I'll tell you that much. That's a good excuse too. But 8 more games? I mean, that's asking way too much. I mean, I can't imagine he's not going to play for 8 games. I mean, I can't see that. But I see where you're coming from, because if you can get Barkley in that backfield, and Garoppolo, that'd be a great offseason, or a great 1 year period for John Lynch. But anyway, as far as this game, I like the Niners. I mean, Arizona, no Palmer, Stanton stinks. I don't even know. Maybe Gabbert should probably start playing soon. I actually didn't think he played all that poorly in the preseason, so I think they should get Gabbert in there soon. But I think it's time for San Francisco to win. They almost beat Arizona in overtime in that game that they should have won like 8 times until Arizona won that game late. But that was because Carson Palmer was that quarterback and not Drew Stanton.
I try not to feel stupid about picking games, but that whole San Francisco 12.5 too much makes me gun shy against Philly, because I was all over them.
Oh, okay.
Philly's going out to the West Coast. They're a little big headed. We'll see, and they obviously stomped them. So, not sure I'll touch them.
All right. So before I let you go, then take a look. I'm gonna go through these teams. You tell me which of these teams you think do you actually believe in to be that 3-4, 4-4 team to not only make the playoffs but possibly do something. Detroit.
Yeah, I can buy Detroit because, again, if Stafford stays healthy, he's a top 10 quarterback at this point, the way they drop like flies.
Mm-hmm.
And, I mean, it is completely true that you get that guy the ball in fourth quarters, and he ups his level by a few notches. So, with a lot of teams trying to do stuff with backups, I'll buy Detroit, and I'll buy that defensive coordinator.
Yeah, I would put Detroit in my first wave, definitely, and I also would put Baltimore, no surprise, in my first wave at 4-4. What about you?
Let them beat Tennessee because I've got Tennessee as a 4-point favorite, and I can't imagine it's that high. So I'm gonna, because the way I do this stuff is I'll put my own spread in there and then let the week play out, and then Friday night when I have to have my contest pick ready, then I'll look at the lines. If I'm surprised by something, then I really dive into it. So that's why there are times when I don't know lines when we go in there. There's times when I obviously can't avoid them. They're on all the time now. But so what is that number? Is Tennessee -2?
3.5.
Oh, so I'm close. Okay. Yeah, if they go out on the road and they beat Tennessee, I'll believe a little more. Beating a Dolphins team that obviously quit on a game and that allowed themselves to because first that Kiko Alonso play, I know I saw it in the minority. I didn't think it was that. It was vicious, but it wasn't dirty. And I thought that his teammates put on him their level of play to just diminish so much after that you let Baltimore hang 40 on you. Once the defensive touchdown, that Moore looked to throw, only it seemed to screw my under. It's the end of my belief in the Dolphins, not necessarily the beginning of my belief in Baltimore.
Okay. Washington, because I'm a big no for Washington.
Yeah, too decimated.
Oakland?
Oakland's still alive because I had such high aspirations for them. I mean, sure they can catch fire, but at one point we said I said hands down AFC West best division in football. Now it doesn't look like that at all, and that might benefit Oakland in their resurgence.
Yeah, they're definitely in the mix. Let's see. All right, Houston without Watson.
No way.
Yep. Cincinnati.
I can still believe in Cincinnati, but they're going to have to stay completely healthy. But what is it? 3 straight that they've won, or 3 or 4?
3 out of 4.
They've got to get this weekend at Jacksonville.
Who do you believe in more, Cincinnati or Baltimore?
That's a really good question because I don't have an immediate answer.
Okay.
I don't. I would say just the fact that I'm doubting it. Probably Baltimore, I believe in more, because that would have been an easy answer to Cincinnati if you'd asked me 2 weeks ago.
Denver?
No, not with Osweiler. I mean, and it would be nice for him to get some confidence if he's going to be thrown out there as the savior part 3. But he goes on the road to Philadelphia and with banged up offensive line and bad offense.
Maybe they get Chad Kelly healthy at the end of the season. Or they get him in there.
Well, that's who Elway wants. I don't think there's. I mean, if you were to give Elway the choice of having a resurgent Paxton Lynch or Chad Kelly come off a PUP and really start lighting it up, I think it's a no-brainer that he prefer Kelly.
Yeah, I love Kelly. It's just that, of course, he's a head case. So you don't know if you can trust him, but that's why he slid all the way down to the draft. So. That's the bargain, and maybe you got something there. All right, Jets.
No, come on now.
Oh man, my life.
They are. I guess they are there because of that record, but no, the bottom's going to fall out. But they are going to beat their win total prop.
Yeah, they are. Yes, they are. Yeah. Okay. Quarterback dropping like flies, and Josh McCown can't get hurt. That's the story of my life as a Jet fan. Let's see. Where are we? Okay, that's it for that. Let's go. No Arizona, of course, right?
No Arizona.
Yeah, no Arizona.
Too banged up, and if David Johnson comes back, it would be week 12 at the earliest, maybe. I think December, something like that. And he needs to do an awful lot in a short period of time.
And finally, the Chargers.
No, I could still buy the Chargers. Quarterback talent, coming off a bye, you get to regroup. Still a coach you can probably believe in because he's still so new. So yeah, I mean, that's actually not a bad team in this game.
All right, so it looks like maybe let's see, we got Detroit, and actually that's it in the NFC, and then in the AFC we've got Oakland, the Chargers, and maybe Baltimore and Cincinnati. So give me your best team out of that. Detroit, Oakland, Chargers. Still seem to be your top 3.
I will ride hard with Oakland still.
Okay. I'll
probably not realistic, but And I'll go with that.
Yeah, but it makes sense because it's just not explainable. It's like if it happens, you're like, okay, that's what I thought was going to happen. So it's not like there's injuries. It's just if they start playing well, you're like, well, there you go. This is the NFL. You can have a bad first half and a great second half. We've seen it many times.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would think Oakland too, but I'll also throw in. I'll also just stick with Baltimore. But I do agree with you. They got to beat Tennessee this week. If they can beat Tennessee this week, then I do really feel that they'll be for real. And you know what? They beat Tennessee this week. I don't even think that if you're because I wouldn't, and if we're even thinking about anything crazy like Super Bowls with any of these teams, there's no reason to rush it because all these teams are still getting big odds. Just just be patient. Even if a team is 60 or 70 to 1, one of these teams, even if you drop it from 70 to 50 to 1 week or 40 to 1, who cares? I'd rather drop it a little bit like that and be sure or much more sure than waste anything on a 70 to 1 shot. Then they lose a game this week. And then you're like, why did I even waste that money? So that's the way I do it. Okay, so that'll wrap it up, Mr. Tony. So enjoy the game. Where did you go? You had surgery or something?
No, X-rays on what boils down to I really thought I hurt my hip, but it's like a strained hip flexor in the sports hernia family. And cut a long story short, I did something that I probably wouldn't have been able to do at 25, and I tried it at 39. Didn't go well.
Shame on you. Well, that's proof right there. You're getting old. By the way, what did you think about that Penn State Ohio State game?
Tremendously blown opportunity for Penn.
Oh, I couldn't. I mean, and by the way, the Greeny twins on ESPN were like, "Oh, that's it, Penn State. There's no way Penn State can go to the playoffs." I mean, they just don't know anything about college football because Penn State can easily go to the playoffs. Three different ways I explained on the show the other day. One is that it would be great in a way would be if Ohio State lost one more game, went to the Big Ten championship game and won. Penn State won out, and we'd have the reverse of last year. And I would die laughing if that happened because what would they do then if Ohio State was ranked below Penn State and Penn State had one less loss, and it was the exact opposite of what happened last year when they took Ohio State in that same circumstance? Could you imagine them taking Penn State of Ohio State this year if that happened?
Karma's funny. I don't know. I mean, we'll see it play out. With Wisconsin sitting there wondering, well, who do we have to do? Well, you have to run the table.
And win the Big Ten championship. Yeah, you got to win that game.
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
Of course you do.
Yeah. So but look, even if Ohio State, even if Penn State, even if they want to put Ohio State in, they could also still put Penn State in. In my mind, if Penn State runs the table, I still think they're going to find a way to probably get in because some of these other teams are going to lose. Everybody loses at some point. So Penn State still has a legitimate chance, but yeah, they just blew that game.
I hope for the sake of how bad the conference is that there's a blowout winner in the Georgia Alabama title game. They're both great teams,
and they may both get in.
SEC teams.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know, not this year.
I know.
And I'm not a big SEC hater. Like I respect the conference
sure.
and the fact that they do land but this year's been brutal.
No, yeah, and it really has been for a few years now. It's just it hasn't been as good as it has been with Florida and LSU because they don't have quarterbacks and so yeah, it hasn't been as strong.
And cheating.
Yep.
State doesn't have Dak Prescott. So.
Yep. So yeah, so there's a lot to play in, and it's I'm just counting the years because it'll be here. Maybe it'll take 5 more years, but they'll get to 8 teams. Because I think people are going to get sick of this. This 4 teams is pretty ridiculous. So
yeah, I mean it's unfair because now the UCF USF game's probably not going to produce a team that's going to be even in the top 5, but in the top 8 they would get their shot.
Yeah,
I think that's all that matters.
Yeah, and I spoke to Mark Daniels by the way before. So
yes,
your play-by-play guy for Central Florida, and we went over that.
He's been there for 20 years.
Yep, 23 years. We talked about the possibility. What does Central Florida have to do to get consideration? Maybe next year, and his response was very logical, which was, well, you win out this year, you go to the big game, you win the big game against a credible team, you come back next year and run the table, and then you force their hand. And he would be right. I mean, you got to run the table. I mean, you got to win that big game though in the bowl game. You got to beat some, like a Penn State doesn't go to the, they'll probably go to Rose Bowl, but a team like that, like Wisconsin, beat a Wisconsin if they don't win the game and go to the Rose Bowl or Penn State, win that game, and then you'll get some legitimate consideration next year.
The likely prerequisite to all of that is keep Scott Frost around.
Yeah.
We'll see if that's going to
He thinks there's a chance, and I agree with him. I think the only job he leaves is Nebraska. I don't think he leaves.
Yeah, no, but I mean, what if the dominoes fall and Taggart leaves Oregon? I guess he came out and said, no, we're not moving. Told his kid texted him about the Florida opening. Are we moving again, Dad? So maybe the Ducks job doesn't open.
Why do you think it's that bad with Taggart? They're talking about they made a mistake or something?
No, Taggart, coming back to Florida.
You mean Taggart coming this way in that job opening?
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know. Okay.
Yeah, no, I like him as a coach, and I like his philosophies. They just they had injury issues. I mean, their quarterback went down, and they didn't have the second one ready.
Yeah, we'll see how it works. It should be fun. This is the fun part though of the season, and then they get to the committee starts making their decisions on playoff teams and bowl matchups, and all the fun goes away. All right, Tony. So appreciate it. Enjoy the games. Stay healthy, and I will talk to you next Thursday.
All right, sounds good. Take care.
Thanks, Tony. All right, that's Tony Mejia, and again, you can go to VegasInsider.com and check out Tony's work, and of course, Tony does a great job. Has been there for a while and been very credible. And we don't necessarily, of course, put him on this show. I should put him on this show. We don't necessarily put him on the show or network. Well, yeah, network. We don't put him on this network and push his handicapping, but that's what his specialty is. I've known Tony for a long time. I've known Tony since his expertise was the NBA, which, by the way, if you notice, that's his Twitter handle. Has got the NBA in it. But Tony's been in this football business for a while as well. And again, very respected, does a really good job. And any handicapper knows what's going on in sport. And Tony knows what's going on in both college and the NFL. And so it's always good to have him on and get his opinion on what's happening as well. Wish I can have him on our college football show, but maybe I'll talk him into that next year. By the way, for your college football fans, you can tune in tomorrow. That's where we're going to talk college football. We'll go over all the big games and let you know exactly what's happening there. So, as a matter of fact, we have interviews for the Oklahoma State game. We got some beat writers covering those teams. So we'll break down the Oklahoma State game. We got a beat writer talking Notre Dame football. And then we'll go over a ton of key games. Same thing like we do on this show. Odds, injury updates, trends, and all that kind of stuff. So that's going to be tomorrow on our OFN College Football Preview Show. Don't forget to check us out on Twitter at PrimeSN, and that's the best way of finding out when our shows are immediately available on demand. And go to Ourlads.com for the best depth charts in the business, both NFL and college football. So for Tony Mejia, I'm Greg DePalma. Thanks for tuning in to the Ourlads Football Radio Network. We'll see you next time. Red tape to keep the truth confined.